So here at Rural Roads University, it's so important that we provide acknowledgement of our traditional lands, whether we're coming together physically on this beautiful space or joining in virtual dialogues like we are today. Rural Roads University rests upon the traditional lands of the Kosepsum and Lekwungen ancestors and families. It's with great gratitude that we live, learn, work, and play here on this space where present, past, and future Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, and faculty come together. This is a great time to test out that chat box. So again, if you look at the black bar below, give the chat box icon a click. Let us know, where in the world are you joining us from today? What sector are you working in? And if you feel comfortable or you have questions already coming into our session, pop them in the chat box and we can chat about those together. So we'll head into the chat box in just a few slides to meet all of you a little bit more. But first, I guess we should introduce who we all are today. Well, my name is Selena Kuna, and I'm an education specialist here on campus. And I am so excited to be a part of this conversation as we dive into our Master of Arts in Leadership, Health Specialization. So to add to our conversation today, we are so thrilled to have Dr. Cheryl Heykoop, who's a program head of this program we're chatting about today, as well as Sukhi, who is a current student, but current student not for long, as I hear you have submitted your capstone today. Big yes. So we'll hear from Cheryl and Sukhi in just a few slides, but a big thank you to you both for being here today. So you learned a little bit about us, and I'm going to open up my chat box so we can learn a little bit about all of you. So we have Cynthia joining us today. We have Rhonda White. Rhonda is one of our enrollment advisors here at Rural Roads. So you'll actually see Rhonda quite a bit in our chat box, popping in helpful links or answering any questions that come up today. So thanks for being here, Rhonda. We have Jen, who's working just down the road, currently in emergency management. Anita from a small town in Saskatchewan, working as an LPN in geriatrics. Of course, Cheryl joining today from the traditional lands of the Wasanik families. Robin, a registered social worker living on the territory of the Wasanik peoples. Carmen, joining from the office at the Ministry of Health in Victoria on the traditional lands of the Wasanik people. Sarah, working in Banff, Alberta as a nursing unit manager. And Andrea R. from Vancouver, research librarian at BC Children's and BC Women's. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Keep those introductions coming in. It's so exciting to see who we have in the room with us live. And it really helps us understand the types of information we can provide so it's most helpful to all of you. So once again, a big thank you. We're next going to head into just a quick spin of the RRU experience, talk about the program, and then get to the best part of the webinar where we get to talk to Sukhi about her student experience. We'll cap off with some admission and application information and leave time for some question and conversations as well. So I'm just going to kick right into the RRU experience. For those who might not have been on our campus, we are so lucky to be located in Victoria, BC. We are one of the more milder climates here in Canada, so these pictures do a pretty fair job depicting what our campus looks like most of the year. You'll notice Hatley Castle and beyond, we have our teaching and learning buildings. We're situated on over 500 of overgrowth forests, so lots of natural hiking and walking trails, though our gardening teams are always busy keeping our curated spaces looking beautiful for staff, faculty, students, and community members to cruise through our Italian gardens, our rose gardens, and a variety of other spaces as well. We're lucky that just a stone's throw away at the base of our campus, we have a Esquimalt Lagoon. And this lagoon is actually a registered bird sanctuary. So not only do we have a lot of people buzzing around our campus, but a lot of different birds and critters as well. And this final picture depicts online learning. So Royal Roads University began as a university for working professionals. And to make sure that we meet the need of people like you, we brought to life this blended learning format. So, this way that working professionals could still access post secondary education, but in a way that was flexible. So, life didn't need to be on hold for education to emerge, but that education and life could combine. And that's a philosophy you'll see emerge through the courses we talk about, philosophies of our teaching, learning, and research, and part of our student experience as well. Being a university for working professionals, something that's really powerful about our learning experience here on our campus, whether that is physically or in our virtual learning environments, is that students are encouraged to bring opportunities or challenges that they're facing into their workplace into our classrooms. So not only, of course, are we engaging in hypothetical learning or theory dissection, but together we're engaging in real world problem solving in real time. And I'm finding myself getting really excited talking about the program and our learning. So this is probably a great time for me to pass the baton over to Cheryl and Sukhi, who are going to tell us a bit more about the program and the experience within the program as well. So over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Selena. And it's wonderful to see the names on the screen and the people in the chat. I'm really excited to talk about the program. And I just wanted to reinforce when Selena was just talking about that the program is really geared to working professionals. With that, it means that everyone in the program, including your instructors, we're all learning together all the time. So we're learning from each other. It's not necessarily transactional learning. It really is engaging in this bi-directional learning and mentorship, which is one thing that I have to say I absolutely love about the program. And I know when I talk to our associate faculty, that's one of the things that gets them to keep coming back, is that they feel like they themselves are constantly learning through teaching in the program. So just wanted to offer that before we launch, and maybe we'll head over to the next slide there. So why a Master's of Arts in Leadership in health and a health specialization? I mean, I think we all know that the healthcare system is rapidly changing and we are navigating complex challenges. And we've always been navigating complex challenges, but the challenges before us are ever changing. And through the program, it really is an opportunity to focus on understanding self, working together in teams, and applying a systems lens to navigate these complex challenges that we face today. So next slide, please. So on the screen, there's a bunch of outcomes that are, achieved through the program. But one of the things that I wanted to speak to here is actually that the program is competency-based. So it is focused on some key competencies that people work through and hone through the duration of the program. So focus on personal mastery. How am I, as a leader in healthcare, focused on self and developing my own personal resilience and skills to be able to lead through uncertainty and complexity? A second competency is learning, creativity, and innovation. So how can I support learning for myself and for others, and also look at things through creative and innovative ways? Strategic and collaborative leadership. How can I be strategic and collaborative as I lead? How can I apply a systems lens or orientation? How can I draw on evidence to inform my decisions? And when we say evidence in the program, I wanted to say that evidence is, yes, literatures and knowledges, but it's also teachings from elders. So we actually have an Indigenous scholar in residence that actually offers diverse ways of thinking about challenges, and also lived experiences. And that's lived experiences of everyone in the classroom, that too is an evidence that we can draw upon to inform our decision making. And then that links to the sixth competency of the program, which is engaged inquiry. So how can I engage in learning with others to facilitate real world change, as Selena was talking about? So I know I didn't speak to exactly what's on the slide, but I do think that by focusing on the competencies, these outcomes are lived and realized. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the program, I'll give a quick overview. So it is 2 years in length. There are 36 credits. It is offered through a blended delivery model. So there is online learning, but there's also two 2-week intensives. So one happens in year 1 and one happens in year 2. Traditionally, these residencies have been face-to-face, in person on campus. But of course, as we've navigated the COVID-19 pandemic, we have shifted and we've been having these virtually. So still 2 weeks intensive, but they've been in an online space. So we've been able to adapt and shift. In terms of completion options, there are 2 options. So there's an engaged leadership project or a thesis. The engaged leadership project is more practitioner oriented and the thesis more scholar practitioner oriented. But I would argue that each of these completion options, really the focus is on navigating real world change within an organization. So it's, how can I engage a group of people around a challenge that's important to them to support movement towards change? And you could explore that through an ELP or engaged leadership project, or you could explore that through a thesis. I've got a question here just about the engaged leadership project. Can it be completed as a duo or a team, or does it have to be done as an individual? Typically, the engaged leadership project is taken on by a student in collaboration with a group of people. However, we have seen instances where people have worked together, where we've got 2 students who are working on different components of the same challenge. So definitely a possibility. But the intention with that project is that you're really engaging a group of people within an organization to move towards change. And I know Sukhi will talk more about her capstone when I pass it over. Next slide, please. Just a sec. All right. So just in terms of the schedule at a glance, we just wanted to give a quick overview of the program and how it's laid out. So we start, there's an introduction to academic integrity course that happens online, and it's quite short. And then from there, you head into a blended experience, which is actually 3 courses that are woven together into one. And there's 5 weeks online, there's 2 weeks where we come together for an intensive, and then there are 5 weeks in the post-residency space. I would say those 3 courses are really focused on understanding self, learning in teams, and looking at systems orientations. So that's that first set of courses. Following that, we then head into a distance course. And the one in the program is focused on concepts of theories of leadership. And one thing that's important within this course is it really focuses on leadership theories and concepts through a traditional lens, but also bringing in global orientations and Indigenous perspectives of leadership as well. So it isn't just mainstream orientations to leadership, but it's trying to expand and explore critically what leadership is. Then there's a second option for, there's a second distance experience, and that's where you have an opportunity to really tailor your program to who you are and what you'd like to achieve through the program. So there's an action-oriented research course that really focuses on engaged action-oriented research and methodologies and the nuances of that. There's also a self-directed study where you get to choose what you'd like to explore. So maybe you're interested in resilience in the workplace. So you could really launch into that within that course. And we have a new elective that just started actually a couple of weeks ago called Considerations for Health Systems Renewal. And that course is really, we engaged 12 healthcare leaders across the country to gather their input on what was needed for leaders navigating change within organizations. And so those conversations informed the development of that new elective. So following the elective experience, we come together again for a blended experience. I think there's 8 weeks where we're in a pre-residency term where we're really grappling with our capstone projects. What is it that I want to explore? How do I want to explore it? What could that look like? And then we come together for 2 weeks in an immersive experience again and really try and explore and figure out what that project is. And then there's 2 weeks following where you're working on your proposal development. And then following that course, that's where we have the 2 separate streams. So if you're doing a thesis, you begin your thesis, so you're working with a supervisor to again continue to revise and devise your proposal, and then go through ethics, and then begin your study. And then if you're looking at the engaged leadership possibility, then you're working with a supervisor and a group of people to conceptualize your project and then implement your project, again going through ethics. And then following 640, there's a course called Reflective Leadership, where you're applying that learning to practice. So you actually come back together as a cohort to share about your engaged leadership projects and to talk about what's next in your leadership journey. So that's kind of a quick overview of the program. And I'm going to pass, so next slide, and I think the next slide is passing it over to Sukhi to talk more about, like, okay, so I just talked about the nuts and bolts of the program, but what does it actually mean in practice, and what was the experience like? So over to you, Sukhi.
Thank you. Thanks, Lena. Thanks, Cheryl. It's really interesting as I'm listening to that, and I'm like, oh, this sounds so tough, but I already did it. But I noticed I was still getting butterflies listening to it. So give me one sec. I just lost the screen with, okay, questions. Okay. So I might follow these questions, or I might go off on a tangent. So what drew me towards this program? I was thinking about that question, and so it took me 4 years to apply, by the way. I don't know if that's normal. And I started being intrigued by leaders. So I was drawn to certain leaders, and something about them was inspiring, or the way they showed up. And then I'd notice on their signature, Royal Roads, right? So I was like, oh, what is this program that these people have? So it actually started with just conversations with people who had done the program, their experience and what they thought of it, and then looking into the program itself. And one of the reasons I wanted to do it is I wanted more in my job. I wanted more tools. I wanted more knowledge. I wanted to have more thought behind actions, and I felt that that's something I could get out of the program. I hoped I was something I could get out of the program. So I want to go into the challenging part of what was the most challenging. Honestly, it was to apply, really questioning myself, like, who am I to apply? So I work in health, by the way. I should have said that. I work in a leadership role in health. Who am I to be able to do this master's? And being in conversations with people, and they've got these giant titles, and then I thought, oh my God, they're going to know I'm not good enough. So a lot of the challenges were internal challenges for myself about the program. When I got in, first of all, I screamed and all that stuff. And then I printed the letter, and I just ran around and all that. So the first day we're in the program, you get put in, there's around 50 people, I think, in every cohort. Well, there's 50 in ours. And we get put in virtual, we'd get put in groups, into 4 different groups. And our group met for the first time, and everyone had to say their name and their title. And within the 3rd person, I was already overwhelmed and intimidated. And I thought, oh my God, they're going to know I don't belong here. And you had to check in how you were feeling. And I said, when it got to my turn, I was only like the 3rd or 4th person, and there's 13 of us. I said, to tell you the truth, guys, I have something that I'm going to coin as master's remorse. I'm nervous about what I've signed up for. And master's remorse just became our name. It became our group name. And people checked in, instead of with their name and their title, they checked in with all their fears. And it was such a connecting moment, because we all had the same fears and anxieties and doubts. And that group that I'm talking about is one of the things I've appreciated the most, is the connection I have got through the program. So I'm one of the years that it's only been online. So 2 years, I've only been online. Out of 50 people in the program, 50 different leaders across Canada, I've only met about maybe 7 of them, but I can tell you about them. I can tell you their fears. I can tell you the toughest part of their job. Like, the connection that have been able to get even though it's been online, has been one of the best things. And the current group I'm in right now, because you're going to go through lots of different groups. It's my pod for my paper, and we have carried each other. We have supported each other. It's we flash a bat signal and we meet up. What's wrong? And we listen to your week and we say, screw it, you got this. Like, don't. So that's one of the things I've appreciated the most. And I think another thing is, so in healthcare, I'm a positive person, and I want to do more. I want to fix, I want to help, I want to support. And yet healthcare, there's scarcity and staffing shortages and COVID and pandemics and all of this. So it's tough to keep, for me, it's tough to keep that momentum. So another thing I've appreciated about this program is I got put in a virtual room with 50 other leaders of healthcare who have similar goals and want to know how to get there. And I think it renewed that energy in me at a time when I needed it more than I even knew I needed it. Because I started September 2020. Do you guys remember September 2020? Who starts a master's in a pandemic? But okay, that's cool. That's cool. I did it. With everyone in our whole class thinks we're a little bit crazy, but I think just it honestly ignited something in me that I didn't know was burning dim. So just listening to people, and our backgrounds are so diverse. I won't even go into the group that we have, but so diverse, different stages of leaders, and yet we leave those titles at the door, and we show up as students who are open to learning. And sometimes people share an amazing experience and how they excelled, and a lot of times we share where we screwed up and how I wonder what other people think, like, what could I have done different? And wearing your heart on your sleeve. Yeah. So all those courses that Cheryl mentioned, you do get put into different, like I said, you get put into different groups. I am always looking for connection. So that's how I, got to know people. And I would say, make sure if this program falls in your journey of leadership, that you do that as well. Like, reach out to people, connect with them, put that investment in. We have a WhatsApp group called Master's Remorse, and we're constantly just talking in it. How are you doing? This is where I'm at, sharing our wins and losses. So the challenging part, I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. I know Selena shared that I just handed in my capstone, which honestly feels fan-friggin-tabulous. I have one more course left. I will reflect, no problem, but I feel like I'm, at the top of the mountain right now. But to get where I am right now, really challenging and rewarding. So the challenging is balancing everything. So I didn't take time off. So working in a leadership role in the midst of the pandemic, as well as just healthcare in general. I don't even want to just speak about the pandemic. So working your 9 to 5 or whatever your job is, wanting to be there for your teams, and then going home and reading articles and reflecting on them and writing a post and all of that. So I think balance is definitely a challenge, getting enough hours in the day to do that. The first semester really opens up on who am I? What do I bring? What is my part in my life? What is my part in my leadership role? And I think that really pairs well to starting out on the journey, because I had to really think about what's good enough, because I'm a perfectionist, right? And that was killing me at the beginning. I had to make everything perfect and all of that, and just being okay with, this is where I'm at right now. But I want to be super honest. Okay. So I want to say it's about 20-ish, maybe more sometimes when things are due, hours a week, if not a little more. So I would make my own schedule. Oh, Monday and Thursday, I'm going to do 3 hours. And then Saturday, I'm going to do the morning before my kids wake up and before all the whatever. So just finding out how that works for you. And some weeks you'll be like, I'm a rock star. And some weeks you will regret signing up for anything extra outside of your life. And yet here I am at the near the end of the 2 years. So what surprised you the most is that I'm almost done. That just blows my mind. It's so surreal because 4 years thinking, can I even do this? And then to be on, standing on this mountain, like, how did I do it? Anyways, I need to reflect on that. I need to journal about that. So what have you been able to apply in practice? Okay. So it's not one thing. I notice I'm slower. I pause more. I almost go into my head and think, wait, when I'm in a meeting, what have I learned about this? What did I hear? What did I share? I think that to me is very valuable in the current role I'm in, to just have the ability to access that or be like, oh, I think I read, and I don't start sentences with in my master's, but I could because that's where I learned it. But I have all of this knowledge that I didn't have before. One of the courses that Cheryl talked about was about different styles of leadership, right? And so we learn about them, and I'm a very servant leader, right? So I want to be there for people and all of that, which is fantastic. And I think what I learned in that course was sometimes I need to flex into these other leadership styles that I learned so much about, and when to do that. So it's not that I didn't have that knowledge before. I think it's just maybe having it backed up. I don't actually know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I'm just saying that I wouldn't have had that before. The Indigenous lens that Royal Roads weaves into this program, I won't be able to speak to it as eloquently as it is weaved in. We had a wonderful gentleman named Harley who would come, and his stories, what he shares, I carry that with me. I think it's fabulous. I didn't realize how ignorant I was. And now I know that I'm a student and I'm learning, and it's fantastic. And just Indigenous leadership as a whole concept, how it's taught and how I've applied it and brought it into my current leadership. Very well done. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have anything else that I wrote down. Is there any questions that people want to ask? Or Cheryl, is there anything you want me to go into more?
I'm wondering, yeah, thanks for that, Sukhi. I'm sure some questions are going to pop up in the chat, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about what you focused on for your capstone, because we often tend to get questions about that from folks, so that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So prior to starting the second year, we started getting emails about think of a topic, but it was really tough because as a leader, you think, I want to fix everything, right? So trying to narrow down a topic I found very challenging, and almost like everything is out there to choose from. So at this time, it was September 2021, still struggling in the pandemic and seeing other leaders in my profession struggling. So my topic was about the mental health and well-being of leadership, and how it can be enhanced. So that's what I chose. You're gonna hear this a lot about keeping your scope really small, because even though I kept my scope to a certain group of people, I can tell you the ripples have already started from what I've discovered and my recommendations. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more. There's other people in my pod, other fantastic topics. So that was mine. That's what I researched. I did literary research on those topics: resiliency and mental health and well-being of leaders. There's a person in my pod. It's about communication between two departments. So really good topic on how do we improve this partnership. There's one on discharges in hospitals, like another. So I think it's really something that you're passionate about and getting curious about it, because even the problem doesn't come from you. The problem doesn't, it's more about, hey, I'm noticing this, what's happening here, and starting those conversations early with people. even if it's not in your area, right? Like if your scope is, I don't know, an LPN in a certain area, but you want to know about organizational goals and how do we share those? Maybe that's what you start those conversations about, and you see where you land with your question. I want to say that choose something that you are intrigued in or passionate about, because you are with it for a very long time. So if it's not sitting right in your belly, that's not the topic for you. Okay. And just, you know, lots of people change. So I kind of had one, I changed it about 3 times, and then I started honing it in different areas. So it's okay to change, but remember, listen to your gut. That would be my advice, because you are going to live and breathe that. So it started August of 2021, and May 18th, 2022 is when I handed it in, and I'm still not done, because now I'm just energized about the recommendations and what am I going to do with these, and then I'm going to talk about it in my next course. So make sure it's something that you have an interest in and that you're passionate about. I feel like there's a question. Is it for me in the chat? Oh, I think it's for you actually, Cheryl. Are there any students accepted into the program who aren't in vocational leadership role yet, but want to get there via this program?
Yeah, so good question. And thank you, Sukhi, for, for all that you've just offered there. I think it really helps to give life to what it is to be a student in the program. So, so in relation to the question, so because folks are typically, mid-career professionals, there are two, and I think you're going to get into this a little bit, Selena, in terms of the different streams and admission criteria and things, but we do have what is referred to as an emerging leader category. So folks need 2 years of leadership experience in a healthcare context. And then they need an undergrad degree, and they can apply as an emerging leader into the program. So absolutely. And if someone's coming from another field and doesn't have an undergrad degree, you need 5 years of leadership experience related to health. And I think it's important to recognize that how we define health can be quite broad. So it could be community health, or you could be working in mental health or addictions, or we've got folks who are working in continuing care. So there's lots of options and lots of ways in which we define health. So I think within your application, it's articulating what work you've done in health as a leader, and then what do you want to step into, and just articulating that in your application. I hope that helps.
One thing I just wanted to not add to that, but my original spiel, I talked about the connection with the cohort, and with Harley, the Indigenous scholar, but I also really want to say that the Royal Roads facilitators and people that you partner with for each course, the instructors, their goal is to help you throughout this program. So even though it was weird online learning, I never felt alone or not supported. There's always somebody that I could reach out to and connect with, or say I'm struggling, or all of that. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that.
Thanks, Sukhi.
I want to address Anita's question. So Anita wrote, I would like to use this master's to help me with single mothers and getting them out of poverty somehow. I'm like Sukhi, and I want to help and fix and push for change. I'm sure other people might speak to this, but I just want to say, Anita, absolutely, that's fantastic to have a passion towards something. A learning that I had in the capstone was it wasn't about me fixing the problem, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to fly in with a cape and be like, I can fix this. It was about getting the right people together, connecting, renewing their passion, and getting them to generate ideas. So absolutely, I think that it's possible. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that.
We had a question in our chat box here from Sarah, who's hoping to speak their questions around admissions verbally. So Sarah, what I'm going to do is you should see right now, I've asked you to unmute.
Perfect.
Let's see if that works.
That's great. Thanks, Selena. And thanks so much, Sukhi, for sharing. Really appreciate hearing your experience. Definitely echo the feelings of just getting a bit of imposter syndrome, just even going through the application process and feeling quite overwhelmed. Have the degree in nursing, but don't have the B+ average, and just really getting the 500-word, what is your leadership philosophy, and going back to APA formatting, things you haven't touched in years and years. Do you have any advice on how to break down the admission application, any tricks or tips, or kind of how you approached it, and just, any feedback just in regards to the application? Thanks so much.
Yeah, awesome, Sarah. So first I want to say, I agree. The paper, the APA thing was unbelievable. I did take the academic writing course that was offered. I know it extended, so I did actually start the summer, a few months before. I found that course really helpful because I was very new to APA and all of that. I would really recommend that if people feel like that. And I hate to say that because I know it's another cost and more time, but it really prepares you, because the beginning of the program isn't like, oh, this is APA. It's like, hey, write this in APA, but lots of feedback and support. So I just want to say that. I would say with the application process, I broke it down. How do you eat an elephant? I mean, I don't because I'm vegetarian, but one bite at a time. Yeah, 100%. It's funny when you said imposter syndrome. I'm like, oh my God, I still have it. When they asked me to speak here, I was like, who am I to go and encourage people? So that's a tough thing to move past, but I would just say I would fill it out. I unfortunately, I wish I could remember it completely. I definitely know I wrote a cover letter. I wrote about what I want to do. I would just say that Royal Roads, I think, just wants to hear about you and your passion and your experience. I don't, in my heart, I don't think it's always about letter grades or titles or where you are at right now. I think it's about where you want to go and how does Royal Roads help you get there. Yeah, but the APA stuff, I just want to warn everybody, it's all throughout the course. I feel like a pro at it right now, but I'm definitely not. And that course that I took, academic writing, was very helpful. I actually used it as part of my application to say, I'm not going to write this section. I will take this course and try to get the right mark. And that's how I bypassed that part. Yeah.
And I would just add to that, I think when you're working on the personal statement, there are like 5 questions there. So I would start just by like jotting some things down in response to those questions, because really those are the things we want to know more about. So using those as a guide, I think, can be really, really helpful. And if you want to write about something else, totally fine. We want to get a sense of who you are, what leadership experience you have, and then why you want to take the program. Like, why is it for you? Why are you curious about it? What do you want to achieve through it? But that's really what we want to learn about. And there's a question just in the chat I see about, is the student enrollment mostly women? So it's a good question. And we do tend to have more women than men, or people who identify as in the course, and I think that's also, like, I'd have to get the specific numbers, but we do tend to see more women who choose to engage in the program. But we do have, usually, I don't want to quote it wrong, but I would say usually a handful of people who identify as male in the program. Selena, maybe you have more information on that around stats and things, but.
Absolutely. I don't have it on my fingertips at this time, but we always are pulling ratios around, those who identify as male, identify as female, average age. So if that's something we're interested in diving into today, or if you'd like to follow up via email, happy to share those kind of statistics. I know those are things that when I was interested in Railroad and began my program, average age of a learner. That was something I was really interested in knowing about. So we can absolutely share that kind of information.
Yeah, and around the healthcare program, the health program, it is about 40, the average age is about like 40, 41 or something. So that can be helpful to be like, oh my goodness, okay, I can do this.
Absolutely. And, you know, speaking of can we do this, Elizabeth asked a really wonderful question around, will our residency be in person this upcoming fall? Cheryl, do you have any idea of how that will play out?
Yeah, so I can definitely respond to that. The intent is that it will be in person. However, it will really depend on what happens and the advice we get from public health, I think, on how to come together and convene. But the intention is that we would come back together this fall.
And Robin's question actually lends perfectly to moving into the next section of our webinar today around how to apply, what we need for admissions, your application, and upcoming intakes. So with that, perhaps we'll continue on. But Sukhi, thank you so much for everything you have shared. It was truly the most special part of our webinar. I hope you're able to stick with us for a few more minutes until we hit 1:30 in case any other questions come up for you.
Absolutely, no problem.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so what I'll do is why don't I flip through these next couple slides and we'll come right back around to a question and answer period. So moving through how to apply, we're going to kick off by talking about those admission pathways that Cheryl had mentioned. So at Royal Roads, we have both standard and flexible admissions available. So standard admissions looks for prospective students who have a 4-year or comparable undergraduate degree in a related field from a recognized post-secondary institution, as well as a minimum GPA of a B+. We're also going to look for 5 years of leadership experience in healthcare organization or leadership in a healthcare related capacity. So if as we were moving through today's webinar, you thought, yes, this is the program for me, I'm so excited. But then as I read that standard admissions, you went, oh, wait a second, it's not maybe a perfectly aligned fit with my background. Well, that's where flexible admissions comes in. So we have a few different ways we move through flexible admissions. But for those folks who have fewer than 5 years of leadership experience, we do encourage you to still apply, as we'll be looking for folks who have 5 years of professional experience in healthcare or a health-related organization, and then 2 years of leadership experience. So we call those our emerging leaders, as Cheryl had mentioned. So then for those folks who perhaps don't have a traditional academic background or coming in with that 4-year undergraduate degree, you can still apply if you have 10 years of professional healthcare or health-related experience, with at least 5 of those being leadership experience. And, you know, we've said the word leadership many a times, or health experience. So we get a lot of questions around, you know, what exactly does that mean? What could that include? So if you head to our website, we have some wonderful, I was going to say definitions, but that is a very constricting word for what we have. We have some beautiful explanations for all the different ways leadership and health experience could be expressed and how you share your background through your application. So our health leaders are folks who come from a variety of backgrounds. Some examples you'll find on our website include those who work in positional leadership within healthcare organizations or the healthcare system, those working in roles with significant influence in a health-related community organization, those with experience with successful advocacy or healthcare promotion, and even primary care provider roles that are not supervisory, but require critical decision-making skills. So that's just an example of some different ways that here at Royal Roads, we would look at leadership or healthcare experience. And you'll also see a little note that we really encourage folks to apply who are working with underserved populations or in areas of healthcare that may be challenging or complex, including work with Indigenous communities or emergency medicine as well. This is a great slide for me to mention that For those folks who are joining us through flexible admissions or who have not satisfied the GPA requirement, you are required to participate in that wonderful course Sukhi had mentioned called Academic Writing and Critical Thinking. We hope that our learners complete that course prior to starting their program. And I believe we're looking for a B or B+ once you've concluded your experience in that course. And that is for the reasons that Sukhi has already outlined. Once you get into the program, you are off to the races. And we want to make sure that you have the skills and the understanding and use of things like APA, so that once you start learning in your program, you're not worried about, well, oh, how would I cite that thing that was really cool that I just read about? Instead, you could go, hey, that really cool thing I wrote about, let me dive into that. So if you have any questions about that course, always connect with our offices. It's a well-loved course on our campus. Almost all of our programs have the requirement for their learners to participate in that course. And those folks who do join us through standard admissions, who are, a little bit further away from their last academic experience, they elect to take that course for all the reasons that we've just mentioned. So because it's so well loved, we generally have an offering every month, and some months more than one as well. So always connect with our offices and we can help out. This is also a great time for me to mention that flexible admissions is something that's assessed on a case-by-case basis. So although we've outlined some different criteria to help you understand how flexible that can be, always connect with our offices, because our folks, such as Rhonda, our enrollment teams, they're so excited to talk to you about your professional, personal, academic backgrounds, experiences, and help you understand, is this course the best option for you on our campus? Let's make sure that this course can provide you with the growth that you're looking for and that you're able to succeed in this setting. So I'm saying it many a time, but I'm very excited to keep talking to you. So please connect with our offices. Going to more of the technical how to apply. As some of you might already know, it kicks off with an online application. That online application currently includes a fee of $128.81. And once your online application is in, we then look for some supporting documents. So things such as official transcripts, personal statements, a writing sample, detailed resume, or 2 letters of reference. Our website is again a wonderful tool to help support you putting together these documents. So for example, as Cheryl mentioned, if you're looking towards your personal statement, on our website, we have questions that kind of give you an idea of, what should I be talking about in this statement? So questions that include, what are your motivations for seeking entrance into this program? What do you hope to learn? We ask you a little bit about your leadership experience to date, your gifts or unique strengths coming into the program, and areas you'd like to grow as a student. So those are just a few examples of some of the things you can talk about in your personal statement. And of course, we have some more practical help as well around, how long should that be and things like that. We had that wonderful question about our writing sample. So I'll share that for the writing sample. As Sukhi mentioned, there's a few different ways you can satisfy that requirement. So you can indeed write a paper of 500 words that outline what is your leadership philosophy. You may complete our academic writing and critical thinking course, or you may include a recent being within the last 2 years, writing sample from some previous academic work you've completed. Of course, on our website, we have some more information around all of those different options. But if writing sample seems a little intimidating, no, there's a few ways you can satisfy that part of the application. So moving to upcoming intakes, if I'm remembering correctly, we had a question from Robin around, is it too late to apply for the September 2022 intake? Absolutely not. That is why we're doing this webinar today, because we've had that question a few times. We're so proud that our programs, particularly the programs through the School of Leadership, are well loved in the professional community. So our programs do fill up quite quickly. So we wanted to make sure everyone knew that the September 19th, 2022 start date is still available to register. So if you're looking at beginning with us in September, you want to get that online application in by June 19th, 2022. So that online application will let us know that you're interested in the seat in the program. And then once your supporting documents are in, we're able to adjudicate your file and let you know about your seat in the program. This is particularly important for me to mention because at Rural Roads, we accept applications on an ongoing basis. So we're not actually going to wait until June 19th and then say, hey, let's look at all the application packages that came in. Instead, once your online application is in and your supporting documents, we then adjudicate your file and let you know about your seat in the program. So that's how things can fill up a bit quickly. So if you're interested in starting with us in September, I highly recommend getting that online application in as soon as you can, though June 19th is likely when we'll stop accepting applications for our September intake. That said, for those who are planning a bit further in the future, we do have our 2023 intake available for registration as well. So that'll put your application deadline at June 18th, 2023. And we might have some folks online who are here today to understand, which one of these School of Leadership options are the best for me. So we've put our multi-sectoral as well as our executive leadership options on the slide as well, just so you have a snapshot of how all the deadlines line up right now. So moving to our next slide, student services, we get a lot of questions around what are the different teams on campus that are here to support you, whether you're joining us online or in person. So this is just a quick snapshot of the different teams we have. So accessibility services, student engagement, Indigenous, international student services, counseling services. And one that we get a lot of questions about is our financial aids and awards office, as we should. Financial planning is such a critical component of being able to move forward with your continued education. So we wanted to make sure we zoomed in on these guys and provided their website as well as their direct phone lines. This team is well equipped and they have their fingertips on resources that are available to you internally here at Rural Roads or some options externally as well. So if you're interested around what scholarships, bursaries might be available to you, connect with this team. But they're also here to help answer any questions around loans or other types of funding as well.
And I just want to jump in there. If you are thinking of applying to the program and want to explore scholarship options, some of them need to be explored within the first year of study. So I think definitely connecting with them now can be helpful to get a sense of when things would be due and required if you wanted to go that route.
Great ad, Cheryl, thanks so much. On this slide, so every time I've said connect with our offices, well, here are our offices. Rhonda and her team, they're just one wonderful example of the team available here to help answer any questions you have about this program or any others on our campus, including more specific questions around the application process and things like that. So if you are a Canadian citizen, permanent refugee, landed immigrant, or Canadian citizen, permanent resident, landed immigrant, or refugee, you can connect with Rhonda and her team at learn.more@ruralroads.ca. And if you're an international citizen or temporary resident, you're going to connect with Rhonda's counterparts in our international enrollment team at learn.more.international@ruralroads.ca. And I see our chat box is alive with some questions. So while we've come to a close on the formal presentation, just a minute left to go, what I'll do is I'll pull down our PowerPoint and see if we had the opportunity just to at least answer just a couple of those questions. So Cheryl, we have a question here around the personal statement. Is the objective to have all 5 questions included in that personal statement?
So good question. And I think those 5 questions can be helpful because those are the elements we're looking for in the personal statements. However, if it's 2 pages and you can't address all of those questions, I think it's totally fine. Again, we want to get a sense of who you are, what leadership experience you have, and then why you're interested in the program. So I would say those are the things that we're really, really interested in. And those questions are there as a guide, but if you're like constrained by those questions, I would say there's no need to follow them. They're there for folks when you're like, I don't know what to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cheryl. The next question we had was around the cost of the 2-year program. And unfortunately, our friend Rhonda had to leave for another engagement right at 1:30. But what we can do is I can make sure to link the cost of this program, as well as we have payment schedules. So to just give a bit of a general answer to that question is in this link, you'll see the cost of the program, but you'll also see the payment schedule. So you're not expected to pay for the whole program at one time. It's generally as you're heading into the next course. But just to make sure I'm not quoting the incorrect number, I'll make sure I link that live document so you are up to date with the current cost of the program. So with that, we have come to an official close, 1 minute over time. So I just wanted to, perhaps, Cheryl, can I pass the microphone back over to you? Do you have any last comments or to send us on our way?
I think I just want to say thank you, Sukhi, for your words and for sharing. Thank you to everyone for joining today. I think also the tagline of, I think it's shifting, but it used to be life.changing at Royal Roads. And I would say as an alumni of the doctoral program at Royal Roads and from talking with students, it really is life-changing. And not just in the work profession, but it's like changing in every aspect of our lives. So I just want to, like offer that and really encourage folks to reach out if you have any questions about the program. Happy to chat further and to explore if it feels like the right fit for you, and really hope to see some folks in September.
Thank you so much, everyone. Again, Sukhi, another big thank you for being here with us today. And a big congratulations. I hope you get another excited lap around the house now that capstone is submitted.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. That was really fun.
I am so glad. Well, we wish all of you who joined live and those who are watching the recording now a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where in the world you're tuning in from or watching this recording. So have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.